Welcome back to Ford High School Weekly, ladies and gentlemen. And today we got a special treat for you, okay? Not only does he, ref on the gridiron, but also coaches on the hardwood, the head coach of the Jenks Trojans, Coach Clay Martin. Coach, how's it going?
I'm doing great, man. Just trying to stay warm. How are you?
I'm trying to do the same. I'm trying to find in the North Faces and all the beanies I can. I mean, it's supposed to warm up like towards the end of February, right? I get that correct, huh?
Absolutely. When you lived here this long as I have, I mean, it could be 80 tomorrow. I don't think it will be, but it changes rapidly in this state.
A friend of mine told me, "Have you looked at the weather? It's supposed to be like 20 degrees all week." And I was like, "Stop. Don't tell
Oh
me
yeah, yeah.
that."
That doesn't look good for this week if you're not a cold weather fan.
Well, I mean, speaking of cold weather, I mean, I went ahead and got a chance to check out the Jenks Trojans basketball program recently, and those guys are not cold, okay? They seem to be firing at all cylinders. They're pretty hot. How's the season been so far?
Thank you for saying that. It's a special group of kids. We're actually a pretty young group, and not a lot of experience coming back other than Benjamin and Chase. But with each game that we play, we're getting better. We were quarantined in the middle of January, and coming back, we looked at the next 9 games that kind of counted towards your playoff seedings. And I remember telling our staff and our guys, we've got 2 days of practice to basically prepare for 9 games because just the games were going to be every day. But deep down, I felt our young team just needed more games, more experience. And so, with each game, we're getting better. And to your point, we have showed signs of being able to fire on all cylinders. We've also showed signs of some ugly basketball, but to be expected a little bit with a younger team. But got an unbelievable staff who is just working them very, very well each day. And so we are playing pretty well and just excited about the next few weeks of basketball.
Certainly right. And like you mentioned, and like a lot of people have mentioned that I've interviewed here recently, first thing that comes to their mind is, quarantining and COVID and playing in this 2021 season and how difficult it's been. How has it been for the Jenks Trojans so far?
I think our guys have just done a wonderful job handling things. I went out for a few weeks with a health issue, and we dealt with that. As I was coming back, we're getting quarantined. And to our guys' credit, they've just handled it well. You can do some Zooms and try and create some opportunities to be together. It's not the same, but you want to be together as much as you can. And again, to our guys' credit, we just said, guys, every team is probably going to have a valley like this. Maybe this is ours. Maybe we were fortunate enough to knock it out in early January and not at a crucial time. But to your point, Dion, I mean, everybody's dealing with it. You just got to be able to roll with it, bounce back, and be ready to go when your name is called.
When we come back, we'll hear more from Clay about his family's battle with coronavirus and his experience as COVID sent him to the hospital. That's next on Ford High School Weekly. Welcome back to Ford High School Weekly. We're talking with Jenks basketball head coach Clay Martin, who faced down a tough challenge from COVID. You had some firsthand experience there, and this is kind of the first opportunity that we've had to talk with an individual who's still dealt with it, himself. So how was the situation for you? And I mean, how did you battle your way back?
Sure. My situation was pretty unique. I tested positive on the 19th of December. The NFL called me and told me that one of my weekly tests had tested positive and was showing, the first 2 or 3 days, no big deal. I thought I'd be back in 10 days, back on the field, back on the court. And then I just started having fevers. My symptoms never got better. My oxygen levels started to drop when I was up and moving. Long story short, test positive on the 19th. I'm not admitted to the hospital till New Year's Eve and ended up with 2 types of pneumonia. I had the COVID pneumonia, and then I also had bacterial pneumonia. So spent 5 days in the Pink Palace at 61st and Yale and just received wonderful, wonderful care. And they just told me, you're not leaving here till you can maintain your oxygen level when you're up. With what you do, you've got to be able to show that you can do that. And so, but my wife was just amazing, just the rock of our family, as all 4 of us ended up testing positive at some point over that 2-week span. And Shannon was just amazing and weathering a lot of the storms, especially when I was in the hospital. And so Got out on January the 4th, and I just tell people, as aggressive as it hit me on the front end, I'm very thankful that my recovery has been just as aggressive and been able to kind of get back into things that I like to do.
Well, Coach, if you don't mind me asking, what was one of the scariest moments for you during that period?
Oh, geez. I think, hearing your primary care physician say, here's the deal, man. You're going to hang up the phone. You're going to call IMSA because you need to be in the hospital. You can't go through the ER. Who knows if you'll get a room? And just hearing that, okay. Then hearing the doctor say, you know what, Clay, listen, you're pretty sick. Still don't really know what that meant at the time, because I didn't feel necessarily really sick, but just trying to figure out what that meant, and knowing that both lungs had been, damaged a little bit. I can remember, gosh, day 4, just really struggling because, no visitors, and you're just in there and you can't get out and walk like you normally would because of COVID. And I just remember thinking, this is not good. I don't know what I've got to do, but I've got to get out of here. And the loneliness set in. I think, I spent too much time asking questions about why me. I'm, considered younger for COVID. I'm in decent shape, and honestly just spent too much time asking those questions instead of just being thankful that I wasn't on a ventilator, or thankful that it hadn't hit me harder or as hard as some others, and just trying to be more positive about getting out of there. So, riding that ambulance, and then I think, gosh, day 4 in there of just being in that room, it took a toll on me mentally.
I can imagine, and you mentioned some of the people that supported you along the way, mainly your wife and your family, and the people that worked at the hospital that you were at. But who are some of the other individuals that you kind of relied on during that time, or you were surprised by, that came out of the woodworks?
Absolutely. I go to my staff, our basketball coaches. The way that this happened for me, we didn't get to have a sit-down 2-hour meeting and map out how the next month was going to look for Jenks basketball. We didn't get to put a plan together for who's doing what. I mean, we all know our roles, but I just felt badly for those guys, because as soon as I left, now they're, handling scheduling, they're handling transportation, they're dealing with stuff the head coach does, regarding playing time, and the way that they handled it and kept our guys focused, and just kept them, moving in the right direction with getting better. I think our staff was just awesome. Friends, football buddies, my officials, especially my crew. My crew this year would reach out often, check my spirits, pray with me, lift me up. And it was those, people would reach out and say, hey, I don't want to bother you. You're probably getting blown up. And I'm like, hey, bother me, man. It stinks in here, right? I'll take all the communication I can get in here, just to keep my mind off of things. I've watched, The Last Alaskans is through every episode. I've seen all the Love It or List It by now, and, I'm watching TV 2 a.m. because the steroids are keeping me up. So I would just thank them for reaching out, and it would get into some good discussion. But, outside of my wife and my kids, I think my basketball staff, my coworkers at Jenks, and then my immediate crew in the NFL were just above and beyond trying to make sure I was okay.
When we come back, Clay's journey to becoming an NFL referee started out with the Mighty Mites. Check out his path to the pros when Ford High School Weekly continues. Welcome back to Ford High School Weekly. I'm your man, Deanna Mate, talking to my man, Clay Martin, coach of the Jenks Trojans. Coach, so as you know, I'm a big football guy, okay? So I played at OSU.
Most people in Oklahoma are, man. It's hard to be a basketball coach here. You know what I'm saying? I feel you.
So bear with me. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about your I'm gonna guess your second love, the reffing in the NFL. A lot of people know you're kind of a little local celebrity around here. Everybody tunes into those Clay Martin games and say, hey, he coaches out here. He coaches out here. I feel like when I first moved out here, I heard that literally 20 times on Sundays by 20 different individuals. Man. And I was like, okay, I get it. He knows his thing about football and basketball. So how did that even come about for you?
It's really for me, a very cool story. Public school teacher, gosh, go back to 2005, and Shannon just really wanted to be able to stay at home with our young kids. And, we were just looking for other ways to make additional income. And so started in '05, and I was working everything from Mighty Mites to obviously high school and on the Saturdays and junior high. And I was very lucky after 2 years that I got a break into Division I. I was working at University of Tulsa spring scrimmage, and unbeknownst to me, the supervisor of officials for Conference USA, Gerald Austin, was there just watching, and wanted to know why I hadn't applied since I lived in the CUSA footprint. And I just said, you know what, I've only been doing this 2 years. And he said, I don't care. I would like for you to apply. And there's a guy that saw something in me. And that third year of officiating, I was calling a Division I football game. And I think I had 2 Division I games that year. And you kind of work your way on a split schedule. But my third year of Division I was on a crew. And, just from there, once you get into Division I, the coordinators across the country are all kind of connected. And the NFL is connected with those coordinators as they're looking at the pipeline. And was just Mr. Austin really helped me and sold me and got me into arena football as well, because at that time the NFL was kind of in charge of arena football. And just was so fortunate because there's so many good officials across this country. And there's 121 of guys and gals in the NFL right now. And you're very, very fortunate. It's timing. It's a lot of things. But April the 2nd of 2015, I don't remember it well, Dion, but I think it was about 1:37 in the afternoon. I got my call from then supervisor Dean Blandino with the opportunity to join the NFL. And really, the funny part was when we hung up, I had no clue what position I was going to be. I'd been a line judge and a referee in college, and then he called me back and said, "By the way, we're bringing you in as an umpire."
Ooh.
And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, really?" I mean, he said, "Because we see you as a referee one day." And I'm like, "Oh, wow." And that was on my initial phone call. And they wanted me to be in the backfield. The NFL, the umpires in the offensive backfield, not over there with the defense. And so, you get over that and you go through those calls and just the congratulatories. And, I was blessed, Dion, for my first 2 years in the league to work with Ed Hockley as his umpire and to be groomed by him. And, not so much here. I could use some more. COVID didn't help me there, man. But just to have the chance to be with Ed for 2 years and kind of learn what it's like to do it at that level.
What's the criteria for getting chosen? You mentioned earlier that you didn't know if you deserved it. There's other people who work longer who have never gotten the call. So what's the criteria to make it into that situation?
I think there's a lot of things, Dion. I don't think there's a set amount of years. I think obviously experience is valuable. I can remember not getting the call the year before and being down and pardon me, just kind of like, oh man, I didn't get the call, but it gave me another year to be a referee at the college level. And with what I do now in the NFL, I needed that year. And so, as we always see, hindsight is 2020. But there's a part of the process. It's fitness, it's judgment. It's I went into New York for an interview. I think it would have been 2013. I got hired in 2015, and you're sitting around this big Park Avenue table, at the NFL headquarters, going through an interview just like you would to be a basketball coach or to work at Cox or whatever. And so, but a lot of it is timing. I truly believe that, because once you get in, obviously you want to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of guys that are 20, 25 years that are still working at a really high level. And so it all depends on the timing of the openings. And is the opening in a position that you can work? And are you one of 20 guys they're looking at, or are you one of 3 or 4 guys they're looking at for that position? So a lot goes into it. There is a very business side to what I do. It's not just running up and down the field and, and so, how timely does he respond to emails? Does he get his expense reports in? There's that side of it other than just, running up and down the field, as I mentioned. So, timing was on my side, I guess, because when I got in, there was 13 of us that were hired. And the year before there was 9. So that kind of tells you about the demographic that was going out with, whether it was age or whatever. So, obviously not everybody had that timing. And so, the longer I get to do this, I realize how fortunate I am to be able to do this, and just very, very thankful, and just want to work my tail off to be able to do it for as long as they'll have me.
You might be surprised to find out that officials prepare for games as much as players do. Find out why when Ford High School Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to Ford High School Weekly. We're talking to Coach Clay Martin, who is a current referee in the NFL. Coach, so a question I got to ask, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people aren't privy to this information. So what's a week like for an NFL referee? I mean, I know players and coaches, you got to study tape and practice and all that stuff, but I know you guys have day jobs. I've heard a lot of these guys are like lawyers and all kinds of day job people. So how does the week go for you in that scenario?
What you talked about as a player, kind of, you could just say ditto. I mean, we have our own things that we do, and I remember when I got the call to become a referee, Ed, one of the things Ed told me was, you know what, he said, the easiest 3 hours of your week now are going to be the game, because there's so much now that goes into it as the referee. And the game's hard enough, obviously. But, it really starts for me when I'm leaving a game. When I get on that airplane, I've got the TV copy on a thumb drive, and I'm starting to watch and prepare and look at plays and evaluate our crew as they are as well. And making notes and clipping plays that we're going to use to evaluate at our meeting the next week, and get home usually at about midnight on a Sunday night, and Monday morning back to Jenks, and, working in, Monday and Tuesday, a lot of film from our previous game or the one we just worked. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's all about the next two opponents. We have training tapes we're responsible for. We have tests we're responsible for. And then, that's just the stuff I get to control. Then it's the phone calls. It's, maybe there's a guy on the crew that's down. It's like Ed told me, he said, now that you're the referee, you're the pastor of the crew. You're the psychologist of the crew. You're the marriage counselor. Everything that the crew needs now falls on you. And so it's just kind of managing the emotions of the crews. Did we have a good game? Are there plays we wish we had differently? Those type things. And so, really, Friday is a day that I really try to just relax. I say relax, but not do anything but take tests on Friday, because Saturday we're back at it in our meetings when we all get to the game site. We're watching film at our pregame, and Sunday morning's a blur. You wake up, we have a crew devotional, we have breakfast, we're at the stadium. If it's a normal 1 o'clock kick, we work the game. I'm on the plane at 6, and then it starts all over again. So it's a blur. Once the season gets going, it just flies by.
Now, that's one of the things that I've heard quite a bit about, these tests that the referees have to take before the games. I remember talking to some refs, and they were telling me while I was warming up, hey, we got to, like you guys, we have to take tests as well, because we got to turn them in on Fridays to our coaching staff. And so we make sure that we know and have the game plan down pat. What are these tests like for the referees?
Oh, sure. I mean, the NFL does a great job of just working with you and preparing you. It may be just a rules test. There's video tests that you can go look at. And so, it's just keeping you fresh. I mean, it's easy to try and study and prepare, and then you get to the summer clinic and you pass the Big Daddy test, and it's like, okay, do I want to keep working at this now that I've passed the test, or am I just going to set it aside? So I think the goal is to keep everybody engaged and working every week, and just to get better. And so it's, there's a lot to it, but I think the motive is awesome, and I know it helps me just continue to be fresh with rules and video.
So what happens if you don't pass these tests?
You know what? I don't have an answer to that, and I hope I never do. So luckily I don't have an answer to that, but and I don't even want to think about it, because I love what I do.
All right, so I don't know if you're allowed to do this. I know y'all got rules with the being in the fraternity of NFL referees, but we just recently had a big game, and Tampa Bay was able to pull that thing out there. So, but when you're watching games, are you watching the team in the game, or are you kind of, and because I know this as a former player, before you like really get out of the game, you're watching football games just like you're watching film. I'm watching the safeties and the defensive backs and everything. Are you watching the game as a referee?
Absolutely. I'm going through my progressions. I'm counting the offense. I'm seeing the formation. I'm watching the snap. I'm going through my keys and my progression. So I definitely watch it from the right side behind the quarterback, and I think it's just extra reps. Now I will tell you, Dion, with full transparency, I've yet to miss a call from my lazy boy. I have never missed a call from my lazy boy. When that 35th replay comes in slow-mo and high def, I nail them all. So I love the slowness of that. But to your point, absolutely. I mean, whether it's an NFL game, a college game, I'm watching it just like I'm back there on the right side of the quarterback on the field. It's hard not to.
Wait, hold on, time out. Referees have keys and progressions as well?
What do you think I'm eating a hot dog? You tell me what you think I'm doing, man.
I mean, I just thought y'all watch and then you see something bad and then you just throw the flag. I mean, that's not
that. Well, I hope that's not what we do. But there's 7 of us out there, and there's 7 officials for 22 guys, and absolutely, just like you had coverages as a player, I've got certain things I'm responsible for, just like the umpire, just like the line guys, the deep guys, the back judge, and so. Without a doubt, we've all got our own jobs, and whether you call them keys or responsibilities, absolutely, that's what makes that game happen. I think if we had 7 guys staring at the ball, think about everything that would be missed away from it.
Man, I tell you what, I haven't learned.
Who would have thought, man? Who would have thought?
I haven't learned so much in an interview in such a long time. This is wow. Referees have keys too, huh?
Absolutely.
My title. Might be the title of the episode.
3 seconds, 2 seconds at the buzzer on the way, and it's good.
Be sure to go to YurView.com/OK for highlights and replays of the Ford game of the week. And check out our podcast and past episodes at YurView.com/OK. And remember, only the best in Oklahoma make it to Ford High School Weekly. So thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Dion Amade.